I would say that the legacy systems in general would be harder because there was a never-ending cycle. There was no stop. Everything was, it just kept getting harder and harder. Think about Donkey Kong, think about Pong, think about, a lot of the NES games. It just kept getting harder as they went. So I would say the legacy systems were harder for me. The games are much more involved now, and I feel like the storylines are great, but the games are so small.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm gonna have to immediately disagree. I'll let you go. I'm just gonna let him go, and I played a game because I'm an old RPG head, and I love from the Final Fantasy VIIs to anything RPG. I loved. I played this game called Neo with one of our guys.
Neo too.
It got to a point where I needed so much help with the game because you can get assists from other people that he said, "This is not for you."
Yeah.
Actually,
are video games harder now?
If I could give like a breakdown.
Let's go all the way back to like Atari.
Here's my take on the legacy game.
Are games today made to phase me out?
It's game over.
That was hard for no reason.
Okay, here we go.
So, are video games harder now today than they were with legacy systems? Legacy systems like NES, Super NES, ColecoVision, Atari, Classic Arcade,
70,
whatever.
800,
N64.
Whoa.
Okay,
N64. So where does it? What's the cutoff?
There's no cutoff.
There's no cutoff. Let's go all the way back to like Atari, okay, which is one of the very first systems out there. Okay, I would say that the legacy systems in general would be harder because there was a never-ending cycle. There was no stop. Everything was, it just kept getting harder and harder. Think about Donkey Kong, think about Pong, think about, a lot of the NES games. It just kept getting harder as they went. So I would say the legacy systems were harder for me. The games are much more involved now, and I feel like the storylines are great, but the games are so small.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to disagree. I'm gonna have to immediately disagree. I'll let you go. I'm just gonna let him go, and I played a game because I'm an old RPG head, and I love from the Final Fantasy VIIs to anything RPG. I loved. I played this game called Neo with one of our guys.
Neo too.
It got to a point where I needed so much help with the game because you can get assists from other people that he said, "This is not for you."
Yeah.
The new age gaming is not for you.
If I could give like a breakdown, if we look at games from a lot of legacy systems like Nintendo, Sega, any of the earlier consoles, a lot of those were very much roguelike games. They were very hard. What I would say about games today, which, the category that we would be talking about today would be, Souls type games.
Action adventure.
More so action adventure, but like very much Souls type games that are just like there's no power scaling or anything like that. It's either
Dark Souls.
Either you can take this beating or this is not the game for you. And I would say that games back then were harder, but games today are more challenging.
Yes.
And this is my explanation. So games back then, you got to remember, still very early days of video games, 8-bit, 32-bit, whatever we had at the time. It wasn't as complex as what games are today. The reason that they were hard back then is just because we didn't have the technology for the mechanics for them to be, fluent games. Like, I remember you look at like the Lion King games or Aladdin, you're having to climb the tree in like level 4, but you try to jump up, you'll get to like the 10th tree and you fall off, you're dead. And it was all because of a glitch in how far those two branches were apart, or like not being able to jump high enough. Now those glitches are gone, but they make the games challenging for you. It's meant to challenge you to make you a better gamer, or you're just not built for this.
Right. You know what? I want to chime in on that. That's really good. I want to chime in on that. So here's my take on the legacy games, right? Back then when arcade games came out, it was more of a who can get the highest score. Games like Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and I'm definitely dating myself to a degree.
Right.
Galaga, Galaxian,
we were all arcade heads. I mean, I grew up in the age where that was the place to be. You go to the mall,
Quarters.
You're hanging.
Quarters.
Yes. 25 to 50 cents a game. You're playing Mortal Kombat. We played Street Fighter. You got all these games that we were playing on arcades. And
this is where I was going with it. Like with those type of games, as you said, like as you progressed, the game got more difficult, right? The thing is, it was like, I want to have street cred because I have the highest score. Or those are for games like the one-player games, like let's say Spy Hunter. I got the furthest in Spy Hunter, or Outrun. I beat the game and I continued and I beat the game, etc., etc. Then you have a game like Street Fighter where not only did I beat the game, but anybody else who walked into that bodega, pizza shop, or whatever, I held it down. Down, and nobody could take me off my throne. There's many animes that actually reference this, but the point was, I got bragging rights because I have the highest score. Now, fast forward to the games today, right? The games today, as Nas mentioned, it's more of like a mind crush, so to speak, right? It's a mind crush because there's a complexity to the game where it's not only patterns, but you have to figure out the riddle in order to move forward, right?
Right.
There's much more Easter eggs.
So my question is are games today made to phase me out?
You got the games today where you have the accessibility to figure things out, where you could go on Google, you could go and get like, hey, how do I beat this boss or whatever have you.
Right.
The other thing that the change between the old legacy systems and now is, besides RPGs, excluding that, save points. You didn't have save points back then. You got to a certain level. If you got to level 5 or level 6, I'm talking Battletoads, when you're on your last level, right? You're on your last life. If you die, it's game over, and you start from the beginning.
Have you ever played Elden Ring, my friend?
Well,
have you ever played Elden Ring, my friend?
You still get saves. You still get to whatever last grace that you were at.
That's the thing about roguelike game, is the fact that you have a set amount of time you can revive before you have to start over. So Mario, all those older games fall in that kind of category, except for, some of those games back then, like Mario, was easy. Mario wasn't at the same level as a lot of different games like Mega Man and whatnot. But you still have that, like with what Vern was talking about with Neo. Neo, you die once, you go back to a checkpoint, you die again, you start over.
Right. I'm going to also say this. Between now and the legacy systems, Justin, I love you, kiddo, but this is something you don't even know about. We had to wait for the Nintendo magazine to come out before we could find any kind of information.
Because you're old.
Look, at that time, you had to have a friend that actually had internet service so that you could download all of the cheat codes, and hopefully you had a Game Shark to load them all onto.
Oh yeah,
or a Game Genie, or a Game
Shark,
Game Genie, or a Game Shark. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my! I didn't even have that.
I didn't have
that. I didn't either. The Nintendo Power came from Vern's house. I had to go get that. You're right.
I have a question. But I have a question for all of you. What are the if we talk about the oldest, most difficult game you played, and the most recent, most difficult games that you played?
Oh my god!
Oldest Tetris.
That's really good.
Oldest is Tetris.
What level did you get up to in Tetris?
I wouldn't put Tetris on that list because Tetris is more of a just strategy game
and never ending.
Hold on, but Tetris is the same as like the arcade game, the never ending games that you get the highest score and you get bragging rights. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could count it as a hard game. I mean, I can't knock that, but it was still one of those games that again, it's like arcade. Hey, I got the high score. I got the level XYZ with this score. Yeah. Can you beat that score? And then all of us would try and conquer your score if we could.
Yeah, Battletoads was a great one. I love Battletoads. Street Fighter was a great one. Yeah.
Was Street Fighter hard for
anybody
you?
That had.
TMNT on the NES.
Because it would glitch
My
out whenever.
TMNT, that's my second one, dude. Forget it.
TMNT on the NES was hard.
Right, but what was Andy saying? Andy, what was your hard one?
I would say Street Fighter was hard for me because hitting those moves every time, it would glitch sometimes.
Street Fighter or Street Fighter 2?
Well, I was going to say, because you have Street Fighter 2010, and then your Street Fighter...
No. I'm going Street Fighter, dude. I'm old. I'm old school, so I'm going straight Street Fighter. Okay.
Well, Street Fighter from the NES 2010 is old school.
Yeah, that is old. That is old school.
Like, you got to remember, the first 4 Street Fighters came out in succession, like a couple years apart. So, like, if you want to say Street Fighter 1, you might as well say Street Fighter 3 as well.
Yeah.
No,
you can't do that.
No, stop it. You guys were going to allow that? Everyone's just going to let that one fly?
That's a well, actually. Because Street Fighter 3 didn't come out until, like, it didn't come out till, like, somebody give me the date. It came out in 1998? No. 1998, 1999. That was our first. I think it was like Giant Impact. I think that was
Street Fighter 2 came out for the SNES, didn't it? So
97.
In
97. February 4th, 1997.
Right, but when this Street Fighter 2 came out, when?
It was 1992 or 1991. It was when the SNES first dropped.
91. February 91.
Right, World Warrior. So if you had that Super NES card, that's worth WAP, I heard.
The Street Fighter 2010 is an NES game, and it's not PvP. It is an action-adventure game. I don't know if anybody knew that or not. You play as like
and it was loosely based.
Futuristic Ken.
Yes, Futuristic Ken. And that game was hard as hell. That game, to me, that was like a typical Capcom NES game where it was as hard for no reason. Not saying that Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers wasn't hard, because that was hard. DuckTales I eventually beaten, but that was hard for no reason.
If we want to talk about newer hard games, Returnal. Returnal is
I heard that one was hard.
Scary ass game.
So, like, the thing about Returnal is it doesn't matter how far you get in the game. You die, you're going back to the spaceship at the very beginning of the game.
Really?
It's basically a drop system. Like, you die, everything's dropped, you can pick it back up, and everything revives.
Is that a Soul game?
It is a Souls-like game, but it's a more enjoyable one. It's not one of the harder ones where it's just like, I gotta put this down. Like, I was sitting there playing for hours no matter how many times I died.
My choices, my two choices for oldest difficult game. I'm gonna go Ninja Gaiden.
Damn it! That's the one I was gonna go.
I was gonna go with Ninja Gaiden, and then the newest. I'm sorry, Neo. Just it hurt something and it broke something in my soul because it let me know that games are no longer for me. It's like it's not for me. So
I'll say this right now is that if Neo was hard, Sekiro is gonna be above that. Because I played Neo and I beat Neo, but I felt like I wanted to just die when I played Sekiro. Like, I just wanted to rage quit.
Neo and Neo 2 were absolutely great, but Sekiro had a better story.
Great? You thought Neo was great? I wanted to break that's where I learned the term rage quit. Yeah. I wanted to break my system, my controller. I wanted to break everything.
Like I said, so like again, and you asked the question, like, are they trying to phase gamers out like you? I don't think so. I think these games are meant for a certain particular niche of people that are just really good at video games, that are willing to put all this time and effort to figuring out how to beat the game, rather than people that are like, I guess I'm going to play I Want the Story instead of I Want God of War.
I love that they do that now. I love that they do that now. I get the young people's frustration with it. Young people, because it's like, you don't really know how to play. You didn't platinum every game that you've ever played. I don't platinum games.
I mean, there's something to be said about a game.
It sounds like one statement fits for this, Vern. Do better.
Don't be sorry. Be better.
Be better.
But I mean, you also had things back when we were Brian, me, you, Vernon. Back when we were kids, and we had like the cheat codes. So like Contra, up, down, left, right, BA, select, start.
Down R, up L, Y, B, X, A.
Down, up, left, A, right, down.
You don't have that anymore. There is no cheat codes for anything anymore.
Name those codes.
When you're talking about difficulty levels between now and then, that has to be taken into account. I mean, really, you don't have the ability to cheat anymore like we used to. We had Game Shark, we had cheat codes from, Capcom. Nintendo Power Magazine gave a bunch of those cheat codes too. So we don't have that as much anymore. Now, granted, we have Google, and we can do walkthroughs, and we can go, how do I pass this level, right?
Yeah,
but you know what?
I was gonna say that's honestly just. I think that Google is way easier than it was going to Nintendo Power, and they're like, and there would be a section devoted to like, hey, if you're looking for this item, turn to page 46, and you're like.
Well, but not only that, you had to wait.
And
you had to wait for Nintendo Power
a month
every time,
and you still had to beat it. There was no cheese. There today, you could find on Google how to cheese a boss. So like, well, if you wait for the boss to turn left twice, you get to his back right corner, and then he'll be stuck. And in that glitch, you can just and that's some games have that.
So does that mean that there's more skills? Newer gamers are are less talented than the older generation gamers?
I just think that information travels quicker, so they find out answers quicker.
Right.
Well, that's the blessings of gaming today. The blessing of gaming today is that information. If you do your research, you can find it. Whether it's Google, whatever search engine that you use, you can find that information. I think that there's a dying art, though, of being able to figure out a game yourself.
Right.
I mean, trust, we like those Easter eggs. We like those hints. I like the idea of throwing out the hint instead of like the one cat on there that's on YouTube and power to the streamers or whatever the hell. They're able to figure out the game, and they're quick to post it to say, hey, I beat this game first. Like the dude who beat the sugar and spice out of Elden Ring. Like, I'm like, damn, I do want to play that game. Do I watch the walkthrough or not? For games that I won't play, I'll definitely watch the walkthrough. But when it came to figuring it out, like Metroid, how many actually between Metroid and Super Metroid, how many of us here sat down and played that game straight through and said, okay, I figured it out?
I
felt very accomplished. Very accomplished.
Oh my god. And the new one is even scarier.
I gave up on Prime. When it came out for 64, I gave up. I was like, I can't do this. I didn't like the first person view anyway. But anyway.
Does Flappy Bird count?
Flappy Bird is considered a difficult game, but I mean...
It's like a Tetris, right?
Yeah.
It's a Tetris.
Yeah, there
right. What was that one game that was like that Cuphead that you said that isn't Cuphead?
Oh, yeah, Cuphead was a newer game that was it was built off the graphics of Steamboat Willie. For anybody that's watching that doesn't know Steamboat Willie, it's what Mickey Mouse was before he became Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
The whole story is basically you are just these two brothers that are trying to either join the devil or take down the devil, and you go through all these different levels, and the levels are very linear. Like, all you can do is fire and maneuver. That's it.
There's the game. I don't even know what it is. There's a game where it's like a horror house where you have to go through all these different levels, and like the ink will kill you.
Little Nightmares. Oh no, Bendy. You said ink?
Yes.
Ink? Yeah, Bendy.
So, I mean, games have come a long way, I gotta say.
They have.
But the older ones are harder, the newer ones are challenging.
Yes. I think that because of the resources. It's really about the resources that were available and the amount of... And that includes the in-game resources. You had a lack of lives and all of that. So.
Word. So you know what, guys? Listen, like viewers out there, let us know what you think about the current status of games. What was hard for you? What was your favorite hardest game? Was the legacy games better? Think in the comments below today.
There's another one based on Steamboat Willie, but it's another character that is trying to get revenge on that. I keep seeing I'm gonna throw my age out there. My kids are watching these YouTube videos, and I keep seeing it on.
Bro, I mentioned
YouTube.
Steamboat Willie. I think we all understand. Steamboat Willie came before all of us in this stream
right?